I'd like to share a testimony with you today about what the Bible calls the gift of the word of knowledge. I was sitting in a church service one day. This was before God ever called me into full-time ministry. I was only about 23 years old, I guess. And while I was sitting towards the back of the church, suddenly I felt the number 3 come to my heart. And I also got the word back pain. And I said to myself, I think I've got a word of knowledge. And straight away the visiting preacher spoke from the stage, and he said, the Lord just showed me that someone here has a word of knowledge. And he said, who is that person? Raise your hand. So I raised my hand, and I said, he asked me what it was, so I spoke out loudly from the back seat of the church. I said, well, I'm getting the number 3, and I'm also getting back pain. And he noticed that I spontaneously placed my hand on my lower back when I said back pain. So this visiting evangelist, he spoke from the stage and he said, does anyone here have lower back pain? Raise your hand. Well, 3 people raised their hands. And then the evangelist did something surprising. Instead of praying for those 3 sick people himself, he invited them to walk back to where I was sitting, and he wanted me to pray for them. So these 3 people came back to me where I was sitting, and I began to pray for them. I prayed for the first person for healing. Then I came to the second person, and he explained to me that he was born with an unformed disc in his spine. So I asked him which disc was it, and he said it was disc number 3 from the bottom. So I laid hands on him and I prayed for these 3 guys for healing. Anyway, a couple of years later, God called me into full-time ministry, and one of the towns that he led me to visit was a town named Boona, and near Boona I visited another town called Kalbar, and I happened to meet one of these gentlemen who I'd prayed for that day. And he recognized me, and he asked me if I remembered praying for his back. And he told me that he had had that back pain for many, many, many years. But from the day I prayed for him, he said it had been real good. And then he asked me, did I remember the other gentleman who had the unformed disc in his spine, the number 3 disc? And I said yes. And he explained to me that that gentleman was a friend of his, and it was his first time to ever be in a church service. And he said that the way the Lord knew everything about him and called him out for healing that day was something that left an incredible impression on his unsaved friend.